Hey everyone, welcome back to the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today we are continuing to kick off season 2, talking all about productivity and managing our time. Today we are diving into eliminating busyness in our lives. That sounds nice, right? Stay tuned. Okay, so we've all experienced busyness in our lives, and in this past season, we probably have slowed down in some ways, but things have ramped up in other ways, probably more so at home. I know for me personally, things have gotten busier at home, but less busy outside of the home. So, we're going to look at how we can eliminate unnecessary busyness to focus on the things that matter. And the real point of this whole season is to get intentional with our time, because when we get intentional with our time, we can increase our impact. And increasing our impact is directly tied to our success in life, in our family, in our business, right? In all areas. So that's why we're looking at our time and really analyzing it. And I know for a lot of us, we need to be reminded more than instructed, right? So we might know all of these things, but it's actually doing them that is the hard work, right? So that takes accountability with community. And it also takes really looking at our time and sitting down and reflecting a bit. So as you listen in, just think through what applies to you and where you are in your journey. So I want to look at the root of overwhelm when we talk about busyness, because I think when we are busy, we tend to be overwhelmed. And when we are overwhelmed, we can freeze, or almost a fog can come over us. Have you ever had that feeling where you have so much to do that you just can't do anything at all because you're completely overwhelmed? Well, that is what we want to eliminate. So when we have overwhelm or experience it, it can come from a lack of habits and a lack of a baseline routine. And so the power of choices here are really great, because everything requires a trade-off. So every time we say yes to something, we say no to something else. And I love this saying, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And I think if we went through every area of our lives, just wrote down, everything, quiet time, working out, time with our family, education, work, all the things, right? What can we eliminate? What is not a hell yes in our life? And even just by doing that, you could get great impact, and that would probably take you about 10, 15 minutes. So if you're feeling that today, this is something that you can do very easily that will help you get started on eliminating unnecessary busyness, because there's always another way to do things. And in the last episode, we talked about fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And a while back, I had looked at my schedule and I had just asked one question. And that one question was, how can I do this differently? Is there another way to do this? And that can look at things like grocery delivery, right? Instead of going to the grocery store, or cutting down on the number of stores that you go to. I'm using that as a personal example, but we can do that in our work as well. What can I delegate? What's taking me away from the strategy work or working on the business rather than in it? And how can I minimize that time that I'm doing those more administrative tasks, right? And that can be, if you don't have the budget, considering an intern, or maybe there's a service that can handle part of it for you, or maybe you can just cut that out. Maybe you really don't need it. If you look at what's driving the results, it might not be that thing. So you might just focus and pare down for a season in order to really focus on the most important things. So we really call this section guarding our time with our life, because it matters, and these things, I want to ask a couple questions in this episode, and I want you to just go through it. If you have a piece of paper, feel free to jot it down, but there's also a free PDF guide, and this is coming from the Strategy Masterclass, which is our online e-course that you can take anytime, anywhere, and it's under $100. So, you really can't lose for that price. So we're also going to put a link in the show notes to the e-course if you want to go through this whole process yourself and really take, maybe it takes you a week to go through and watch the modules and just ask yourself the questions and come out with a solid action plan on how you can be more productive in this season. So, what self imposed busyness do you have in your life? That's the first question. I think, Tim Ferriss there was a great quote in one of his books on this. And it talked about this self imposed busyness, this wearing busyness as a badge. And that really resonated with me in that season because I tended to overperform and wear busyness as a badge, thinking that that was a really great thing. Oh, I'm doing so much. Look at all the things that we're doing. And then I realized that it's not a badge. It's not a great badge to wear because what it is exhausting and draining and really unnecessary, actually. So I'm in a season of learning to work and create from a place of rest rather than busyness. And it's great on this side. So I would challenge you, if you're in that place, to really evaluate how you can work more from a place of rest. And that really for me, that started with building in quiet time, reflection time, and doing the things that I love, even if they're in very short bursts. The next question: when you're not working, do you feel guilty and why? That's a powerful question because for a lot of us, it's linked to perhaps things that we experienced earlier in life. We could have some hurts or some wounds, or maybe even some generational patterns that promoted working harder, working faster, working longer. Work leads to achievement. It is the only way. And don't misunderstand. I value hard work. I value being strategic. And I guess that's what I'm saying. I value hard work, but I also value being strategic and intentional. And I think when we get strategic and intentional, we are able to get off of the hamster wheel and look a little bit and say, how can I get this done faster instead of spinning my wheels and going around and around in a circle? So I would just challenge you to think through those things. Where do you get caught up? Where do you get hung up? Where do you get stuck? Where do you spend more time on certain things than that you should? And just by writing those things out, when we put pen to paper, it is huge. I can't really state that enough. And then when we look at those areas and say, okay, what could I do? What could I do differently here in this particular area? What are the other options? What do you want to quit this year? I love this. So Bob Goff talks about, he's an author. If you haven't heard of him, he's pretty amazing. He's written many books and he has a podcast called Dream Big. And he talked about in his book quitting something every Thursday. And I thought that was really good. Isn't it great and freeing to be able to quit something every Thursday? Now, I don't mean the responsibilities, like I'm not going to, cook for anybody this week or whatever it is. I'm not going to do any work this week if you have to pay the bills. But what I do mean is, that could look like I'm going to quit being overwhelmed, or I'm going to quit being stressed, or I'm going to quit drinking too much caffeine to the point where I can't really function well because I'm so jittery, or I'm going to quit, or it could be something in your schedule. I need to quit this for this season because these are my priorities, so that's really powerful. And if you feel totally overloaded, it's great to write down some things that you want to quit for this season and reevaluate these quarterly. Because our priorities change. Like, this is fluid, right? So when things come up, we're going to obviously, need to quit different things at different times. But it's great to make this a habit. And then finally, what do you need to say yes to? What do you need to say no to? List at least a couple things for each one here. And even if you just go through this very simple process, and again, we're going to link to the PDF in the show notes, you will experience so much more freedom. And the PDF is entitled Kicking Overwhelm. And wouldn't we all love to kick overwhelm, right, with our time and eliminate that extra level of busyness? And I know as this time of year comes in, we can experience a lot. All the things, right? All the things with life and business can get overwhelming. But if we are able to really look at our time, and next we're going to go there. So, first is how can we eliminate busyness and eliminate the excess? And then we're going to actually dive into the habits and the routines that can promote this and that can really help you get a handle on your time so that you can create more impact and ultimately have more success in your family life and your business. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to grab the free PDF. And for more, we're going to place the link in the show notes to the Strategy Masterclass, the Productivity Map, where you can actually get the full guide to work on how you want to manage your time and walk away with an action plan. Thanks so much.